And I also want to be really clear, we're not strict on these 7, because the purpose isn't to say you are this type. This is what you always want. Because we actually think of respect as dynamic, as relative, as subjective, and it's contradictory, and it changes depending on the context. So the way that I want respect might be different when I'm with my boss versus with my peer versus with someone who reports to me. And it might be different if I'm talking to a customer versus a vendor, right? And it could also be different if I'm talking to my parent versus my brothers. And so versus my friends. So it's constantly dynamic. And that's one of the things that, so 7 forms of respect is actually about getting curious about respect.
Okay.
It's getting curious that why it's changing. Why is it changing? Let me try to understand what makes it change so people can understand the context. So, but going back to your why 7, so that's the research. We went back to that. And I also tell people, look, if none of these 7 resonate with you, that's okay. What does? How do you want respect? How do you want to get respect? How do you want to show it? The point isn't to be, oh, these are the 7. They're not like rules. It's more, the purpose is more, oh, there are different ways. So even with the love languages, I've heard people say food is my love language. Food was not one of the original 5 love languages, right? And so however people, I mean, I dream one day people say, what are your forms of respect? These are my forms. And you know what that means? We want to respect one another. We assume that we do. We just do it differently. And that's different from you need to respect me. That's how we talk about respect now. You need to respect me versus how do you want respect?
Okay, so it's analyzing respect from not taking the assumption that everyone feels the same on or on how they perceive respectful manners. And I suppose a lot of this also comes relation with multicultural work or teams or people, like how much of this also touches things like, I don't know, diversity, inclusion, equity in the sense, no? Because I suppose that the fact that there is so many forms or different forms of respect is also binded to having different cultures, different kind of people inside of it. It's extracted out of this research also, or?
Yeah, well, and the research is, and the approach is fundamentally, we as an individual, we make our own choices and we have our own influences. And so I try to be really, because some people say, well, how do women want respect? How does this group want respect? And it's just, there's no group that's monolithic, right? I mean, you can have general, what I was saying in Vietnam, time is rubber, but there are a lot of people who care about time. Just because you're Vietnamese doesn't mean that you think that time is rubber, right? It just means that generally there's this acceptance that we can be more flexible with time. And as an individual, I may say, that's not acceptable to me. I would never do that. Or I don't like that. And so the work is actually trying to get clear about asking people, what do you want? Because a lot of times what we discovered, we are all brought up to think respect should be this, should be that. And what we don't ask ourselves is, how do I want, what matters to me? How do I want to be respected? What actually matters to me so much? I will do it no matter what, even if it doesn't matter to other people. And so to get some clarity around that, because so it's a lot of that goes back to the self-awareness part of practicing curiosity. So yes, all these different cultures can affect it, and yet we also belong to multiple cultures, communities, and identities at the same time. So which one is going to be more important? I can't say that being Vietnamese is the most important. Sometimes it's being the firstborn child is the biggest part of what's influencing how I think about respect, right?
Yeah.
Or being an employer is that's what's really strong for me. Or growing up in the Pacific Northwest, or so, it's about being able to name it. Hey, this is what's influencing me right now.
Totally. I think any kind of relation establish some kind of marks, no, and some kind of ways of doing things that might come from cultural perspective, but from work or from family or from everything. So it makes a lot of sense.
Being in a small business versus a big corporation.
Absolutely.
Being in a military, there are people who are like, I grew up in the military, or I served in the military. That influences how people think about respect. And so then to be able to share so that other people can understand, oh, this is where you're coming from. Now I understand why you want that.
It's though the only thing. So this is a framework that you do. It's the only thing that you do with these companies, because curiosity can open thousands of things. No, that's the whole point, I assume, of curiosity itself. One of them being, how do you respect each other and how do you respect yourself? Do you enter, for example, on more tangible things, or like, I don't know, like, because this is a little bit like soft skills, no, what we are talking about. It's okay, how to respect others. Maybe I want to learn how to appreciate myself a little bit more, and that's through curiosity I can arrive to that. Do you also have like clients who are more like, okay, I want to, curiosity should trigger that I want to learn this skill, I want to learn something very specific, like, I don't know, I want to learn Photoshop. That's the first thing that came to my mind.
So that, I think learning Photoshop goes into training, right? And so,
yeah.
I mean, so one of the great things as being a business owner is I can say, oh, I do this and I don't do this. And I can refer you, if you want to Photoshop, let me introduce you to someone who does Photoshop. We don't do Photoshop. So 7 Forms of Respect is kind of the signature work that we do. And yet we also, though everything that we do is underpinned by this practice of curiosity. So for example, another one we do, I said goal setting. And so another one is explore what success looks like and feels like to you. And so again, that kind of gets at that communication. Some people think of success in terms of tangible, measurable. It's just like, success looks like making this much money and having a retirement home and having this kind of car. And other people think success means freedom. It means connection. And the way when we talk about success, we're using these different words. And so what we help people understand is both are important. We should talk about tangible and intangible. It's because again, it kind of goes back to, what I said, disrespect versus respect. This is tangible is important. No, intangible is important. Both are important. We just have to, and how do we also be aware? Some people think about it in terms of feelings and some people think about it in terms of tangible, and we need to have both and they need to be in alignment. So that's just another example of what we do around curiosity. Another thing, this is actually, I think works really well with the expat, is we have something called getting curious about our assumptions. Getting curious about our assumptions. And so I think a lot of people, I've seen a lot of trainings that say, don't make assumptions. Assumptions are bad. That's not our approach. Our approach is we all make assumptions. So let's get curious. Let's try to figure out where they come from and actually embrace them and be surprised by them and kind of be delighted by that surprise. I think of, those nesting dolls, those Russian nesting dolls. You lift a doll and there's another doll and you lift that doll and there's another doll. And that's the way we think of assumptions. They're like those nesting dolls. I didn't know that assumption existed. And now I can break it down, but there's another one. Wait a minute. What's that one about? And I mean, I can give you a coloring book. We can give a whole group of people coloring books and everyone's going to color it differently. And that's based on our experiences. And so what we try to help people do is explain, this is why I chose these colors. This is why I chose to make my house look like this. So that's, or draw the house like this. And so that's another, it's all around practicing curiosity and giving people a space to say, it's okay that I think that there's no right. There's just different.
Nice. How do you see all of this fitting, or what is your vision for curiosity playing a role in the future of organizations and leadership in general? What is your ambition? What is, with all the project, vision for it?
Yes, I hope that we can help organizations become learning organizations. That there is, because we spend most of our time at work. We spend more time with our coworkers than with our family. And And like I said earlier, learning does not stop when we graduate from school. And so my vision is to help to move away from, oh, there, I mean, don't get me wrong, some things we need to be trained in, right? But there's also a lot of space for embracing different perspectives. And then so if we can get into that learning mindset, then we can actually have a more productive, more creative and more accepting place too, because I want to feel good at work. Most people actually, they will, if they like the people they work with, even if they don't like the job, they will stay. And they will leave jobs they love if they don't like the people they work with.
Absolutely.
And so the way and because we spend so much time at work, and part of that liking one another is actually learning from one another. Do I feel that I am growing and stretching here? Or do I feel, and then there are some people who are just, no, work is work. I'm only here to make money. Okay, that's up to you. But there are other places though. I think that there are a lot of people who are just, no, I want to feel that I can do my best, learn here and teach other people.
If you liked this short video out of the full episode, you can find the link to it around here and in the description below. Of course, if you are also interested in checking out other episodes, please subscribe and like.